Here in the eastern Mediterranean is to be found the biggest island of Greece and the fifth largest in the Mediterranean, Crete, an island full of light throughout the year. Welcome to the city of Chania and to the prefecture of Chania, a place full of history and natural beauty. So full of variety that it's more like a small continent than an island. Beaches at the feet of sheer mountains, sand dunes, islands and lagoons. The island's famous gorges, sacred caves, rivers and springs, green plains planted with olives and citrus, a land self-sufficient in its produce, rich in animals and plants, endemic and rare. Villages where traditional ways of life continue. Innumerable churches, monasteries and castles, sites of archaeological and historical importance. An ideal place for outdoor sport, from bungee jumping to snorkeling. Trading in homegrown, homemade products. With its mild Mediterranean climate, healthy diet, preservation of customs and values, and the heartfelt hospitality of the islanders, a lively, creative people who also like to relax and savor life. The old town of Chania is a blend of many different cultures, a labyrinth of twisting alleyways and little neighborhoods, each with its own character. Kumkapi, Sandgate, one of the entrances in the massive walls of the Venetian city. Stallholders come in from all the surrounding villages to sell their wares in the Saturday morning street market. There are numerous churches in the city, dating from different periods and varying in style, from tiny chapels to the city cathedral. Close to the harbour, a magnet for visitors, Leather Street is full of shops selling mainly shoes, bags and belts. The public market of Chania stands at a central point between the old and new cities, a route centre and meeting place. In its 80 or so shops can be found every variety of local produce, which can be sampled, cooked fresh, at tavernas inside the building. city renowned for its greenness, not just in public squares and parks, but in its tree-lined streets and public gardens. In particular, the inhabitants of the Old Town display their fondness for plants and flowers, whether grown in little courtyard gardens or in pots, filling the streets with colour and perfume. Bustling streets catering mainly for visitors with their crafts and jewellery shops, cafes and tavernas. And there are quiet places where the character is purely local. All set amidst buildings of distinctive character. Venetian palaces with their inscriptions and beautifully carved doorways. Turkish buildings with their distinctive wood-clad upper stories and secretive windows. Domed public baths. Flights of steps. Massive arches, a real warren in which you're constantly making fresh discoveries. The real jewel of the Old Town is its Venetian harbour. The outer part with its Egyptian minaret-style lighthouse and mosque, and the inner part with its fishing boats, marina, and imposing series of Venetian boat sheds. No visit to Chania would be complete without spending some time here, just relaxing, especially in the morning over breakfast, when the sun glows on the facades of buildings reflected in the mirror-like water, or at sunset, sitting in the evening cool, watching the world go by. Chania, however, is not just an old but also a new town, a city of some 80,000 inhabitants, which has spread far beyond the confines of its city walls, and has many distinctive areas. There are two large parks on the main road leading to the law courts, where you can escape the midday heat in the shade of tall trees. Some of the finest streets are wide and tree-lined, with impressive buildings in the neoclassical style. One such neighbourhood is Jalepa. Further out of town, on a height above the city, are the graves of Venizelos, with a panoramic view over the city and bay of Chania. The old town of Chania is layered in history. It lies within fortifications built by the Venetians in the 16th century as a defense against the Turks. But dig down almost anywhere and you encounter other cultures, going right back to the Minoan. High above Suda Bay, commanding views in every direction, are the remains of the ancient city of Aptera, dating mainly from the Hellenistic and Roman periods, one of the most important cities of western Crete. Particularly interesting are the huge vaulted cisterns from which the city's water supplies were drawn. Close to Aptera is the Turkish castle of Izindin, dating from 1867, which together with the fortresses at Kalami and Suda Island commanded the entrance to strategically important Suda Bay. Another ancient city built in the 8th century at a site with panoramic views is Polyrrhenia. From here you look out north to the Aegean and south to the Libyan seas. Francocastello, Castle of the Franks, is associated with the myth of the Drossolites. Every year, in May, the shapes of mounted warriors dressed in black, their weapons shining, are said to appear. The castles at Sfakia and Askifu are strategically placed, controlling routeways, part of a network right across the island. The castle of Gramvusa was built by the Venetians, but afterwards used by the Turks and the Cretan revolutionaries of 1821, who used it as their stronghold. The Archaeological Museum is housed in one of the town's most beautiful Venetian buildings, a 16th century Franciscan monastery. It has many objects of interest and charm, prominent among which are Minoan objects, mainly unearthed within the old town, fragments inscribed with Minoan linear writing and painted burial chests. Also of interest is the fine Hellenistic and Roman gold jewellery found in tombs both within the city and outside, as well as Roman mosaic floors. The sea has always been important for Cretans, providing them with employment in shipbuilding and trade. The Naval Museum of Crete at the Venetian harbour traces this tradition from its origin in Minoan times through every type of vessel, recreated in the form of detailed models, together with objects preserved from ships. A separate section deals with the Battle of Crete. The Typographical Museum has many interesting objects associated with the history of printing, the only museum of this kind in Greece. The Municipal Art Gallery is one of several buildings that have been restored in a particularly imaginative way, blending neoclassical with modern. Exhibitions include works by important artists, both foreign and Greek. If there's one building in Chania that sticks in the mind, it is the extraordinarily harmonious Mosque of Hassan Pasha, now an exhibition space, which dominates the harbour with its domes like half eggshells. One of the best ways to appreciate how Chania harmonizes the old with the new is to visit the centre of Mediterranean architecture in the largest of the Venetian boat sheds. Back to Aleppo and the house of Eleftherios Venizelos, citizen of Chania, lawyer, freedom fighter against the Turks, Prime Minister of the newly united Greece, international diplomat and internal reformist, a truly dynamic figure, iconic to modern Greeks. War and the pity of war. A visit to either the German war cemetery near Malmö or the Allied war cemetery at Suda cannot fail to move. Paradoxically, there is a peace and calm at both of these beautifully kept places that allows you to take in the fact of so much loss. There are over 300 Byzantine churches in the municipality, some of the frescoes from which have been removed, restored and put on exhibit in the Church of San Salvatore in Chania. The monasteries of Chania are islands of peace. Not only is the architecture of the best of them, dating from the Venetian period, outstandingly fine, the whole of their surroundings, with cloisters and walled gardens, encourages contemplation. Over the thousands of years that Crete has been inhabited, waves of invaders have passed over it. All remained a while, but none managed to subdue it. The soul of the island is wild and proud. Thousands of years, whole civilizations, Minoans, Greeks, Romans, Arabs, Ottomans. Some of the most beautiful beaches not only of Crete, but of the whole of the Mediterranean are to be found here in the west. Its 350 kilometers of coastline include beaches of every sort, from the sandy cosmopolitan beaches of the north coast, with their hotels, nightlife, and close proximity to the main towns, to the quiet, outstandingly beautiful beaches of the west coast, ideal for a day's excursion. Every summer, Chania stages an arts festival, a venue for artists both from Greece and abroad. Greece being the birthplace of Western drama, it's not surprising that classical comedies and tragedies, Renaissance and modern plays are prominently in the repertoire. Drama, however, is but one element in a full program of events in which dance, from classical to modern, and music of every kind play important parts. At the time of the full moon, a concert is held either in the Venetian castle at Franco-Castello or the Turkish castle at Izendine. Either way, a wonderful experience. Mikis Theodorakis, born in Chania, is one of the most important composers in Greece, with a worldwide reputation, in particular for his music to Zorba the Greek, which was filmed in Chania. Tradition is a living thing in Chania, an everyday part of life, especially in the villages. The Cretan wedding occupied several days and was open to all. On the eve of the wedding, all the bride's possessions were carried to the groom's house on horses, decorated for the occasion, accompanied by friends and relations, lyre players and singers. On the day of the wedding, a procession set out from the groom's house to that of the bride, headed by a woman who, on reaching the house, sang a mantinada, asking the bride's parents to open the door. Joining together, the two groups then proceeded to the church. After the ceremony, the celebrations followed, with music, dance, and a great feast. For Orthodox Christians, Easter is the most important date in the calendar year. After the long fast, the devout atmosphere of Holy Week, and a Saturday of increasing expectation, the resurrection of Christ is announced at midnight in a great outburst of chanting, bells, and blazing fire. The blessing of the flocks in Asigonia in April is a custom unique to that village. Cretans are always looking for an opportunity to celebrate and to express themselves in dance. For that reason, feasts of the church and harvests of every kind, as for instance chestnuts, cherries and grapes, are celebrated throughout the year. Historical evidence suggests that Cretan dance may have its roots in Minoan times. For Cretans, dance can express both joy and sorrow. At a crossroads between east and west, the island of Crete absorbed different musical traditions and mixed them without losing its own identity. Music was an inseparable part of life for the ancient inhabitants of Crete, the Byzantines and Cretans under the domination of Arabs, Venetians and Turks, and still today plays an important part in their lives. Crete can be reached by both air and sea. The port of Souda, about 7 kilometers from Chania, is served by 2 shipping companies, providing daily connections with Piraeus, the port of Athens. The new modern international airport is on the Akrotiri, 15 kilometers from Chania. In addition to charter flights, 2 Greek airlines offer daily flights to destinations within Greece throughout the year. Chania's modern hotels, of every category and type, provide all the facilities for a really outstanding holiday. There is much scope for the development of winter tourism, owing to the island's generally mild climate. Since this is the season when the whole island is green, and it is the fruiting period for citruses and olives, the visitor will get a different picture of life than in the summer, and will get closer to the real life of the place. The European footpath E4 crosses Crete from end to end, passing through some of its most beautiful and remote mountain scenery. With the diversification of tourism has come the development of agro-tourism and ecotourism, an example of which is the traditional village of Milia, which won a prize for ecotourism in an international competition in 2003. World Tourism Day is celebrated in the main square at the old harbour of Chania by an evening in which food, freely provided by hotels, can be enjoyed to the accompaniment of traditional music and folk dancing. Western Crete is a uniquely varied place, a land of contrasts with a whole range of vegetational zones, from the coast to the moonlight peaks of the White Mountains. Snow melting in spring soaks into the ground and starts its long journey down to the plains, where it gushes out in icy springs, feeding rivers and lakes, cool and green in the heat of summer. Mountain plains spring their surprises, opening up suddenly before you, patchworks of fields, oases of fertility cut off from the world. It takes time to get to know the island. You have to leave the towns and tourist centres and venture into their hinterland, exploring routes to villages often dramatically sited on hilltops or in remote places. Unique in Crete, Lake Cornas is fed by two springs. 50 meters deep, its surface is 50 meters above sea level and its bed 25 meters below it. Water cascades down the hillside at Argyropoli. Just the name Sfakia conjures up ragged scenery, gorges, roads snaking up to impossible heights, panoramic views over the Libyan Sea, a pure environment, a people renowned for hardiness. The lake at Chania, close to Chania, is the main water source for the city and a haven for birds. fields in spring with their livestock, sheep and goats, bees gathering pollen from the blooming orange and lemon trees, the vines newly pruned, vines of many varieties, each producing its own distinctive wine. Crete is rich in wild plants, 2,100 species, of which 300 are endemic. Gorges are particularly rich habitats. Wherever you go, you will catch scents of herbs, both familiar and new: marjoram, mint, sage, oregano. Knowledge of the use of these herbs in medicine and cooking is still widespread. Another unique feature of Crete are its gorges, of which there are about 100, 30 of which are in the west. They are testimony both to the enormous forces that have raised the mountains and to the power of water that for over 2 million years has sliced them like a wedding cake. The staining of their rocks, the trees that root in cliffs, the flowering plants that hang from rock walls, and the part that gorges have played in Cretan history as routeways and refuges make them a distinctive part of the character of the island. Omalos is a large mountain plain at an altitude of 1,080 meters. The road runs across it heading south, climbs and reaches its end at Xyloskala, the wooden steps. Opposite us, the precipitous grey cliffs of Mount Gigilos. Before us, one of the most awesome sights in Europe, the Samaria Gorge. 16 kilometers long, varying in width between 150 meters and 3.5 meters. The walk takes between 5 and 6 hours, and the path is open between May and October. The gorge has been awarded the certificate of the Council of Europe as a region of untouched wilderness and beauty, and it has also been designated as a national park in order to preserve its rare flora and fauna, notable examples of which are the bearded vulture and the Cretan wild goat, Crete. The first part of the way down lies through a seemingly unending series of zigzags, a drop of 1,000 meters within a distance of 2 kilometers. About halfway through the gorge, we come to the village of Samaria, abandoned since 1965, when the area was designated a national park. From here on, the walk becomes even more dramatic. The walls close in. Strata in the surrounding rocks sway in waves, chutes vertically up, cut by faults. Caves gape open. Cliffs are stained ochre, rust and grey in streaks. Suddenly you reach the iron gates, where the gorge is at its narrowest, the rock walls soaring up about 600 meters around you. through into another world, the warm, dry south. Time for a well-earned swim at Aia Meli, and something to eat in one of the many tavernas before catching the boat back to Boris Vakion. The grape harvest comes as the culmination of a whole process of pruning, ploughing and tending the vines. And so it's not just a labour, it's something to be celebrated. Each household has its own wine of which it's proud, and it's there to be shared.
Καλώς, έλα. Έτοιμα όλα, πεινάμε πολύ. Τι κάνεις?
Friendliness towards visitors can be met with in many places, but in order to experience true Cretan hospitality, you have to set off on a journey of exploration, laying yourself open to whatever you find. The preparation and appreciation of food plays a very large part in Cretan life. The traditional Cretan diet is renowned for being one of the healthiest in the world, high in the consumption of virgin olive oil, wholemeal bread, pulses, fruit, vegetables and dairy products, very low in meat, fish and animal fats. But it's not just what is eaten, but how that matters. Eating is a shared ritual that takes time and brings people together. In the Cretan soul, two elements prevail, hospitality and honour. While in the hierarchy of values, the highest place is occupied by family and friendship. If you're invited as a guest to join with Cretans in celebration, to sit with them at the table, drink and eat together, listen to the stories they want to tell you and the secrets they will share. If you open yourself to them, showing your pleasure in their company, you will be taken to their hearts. The Chania will give freely of whatever he has, however humble his dwelling, making you feel at home and at ease. It isn't something done for show or out of habit, but something heartfelt. And once experienced, it's never forgotten. The city in summer never sleeps. Evening entertainment reaches its zenith in the picturesque Phoenician harbour of Chania, with its array of restaurants, cafes and bars. Start with a drink at one of the innumerable cafe bars that line the waterfront at youthful Crete. Then move on to cosmopolitan Platanias. Chania's famous for the variety of its entertainment, with hundreds of restaurants, cafe bars, venues with live Greek music, and many clubs where you can dance to Greek and foreign music. Don't miss the chance of going to live concerts given by Greek and foreign performers. Join a beach party. Dance under the stars all night to music played by well-known international DJs. Follow us now on a journey to the other municipalities of Crete. Lasithi, 199 kilometers from Chania. The sun dawns on the golden sand of Vai in the far east of Crete. Behind it a forest of more than 5,000 palm trees that legend says grew from the pits spat out by Phoenician pirates. The capital of the province is Agios Nikolaos, a fine town centered around a circular lake lagoon. Here in the east, the biggest wind farm in Crete is to be found. The monastery of Toplu stands isolated. Mainly characterized by small, isolated villages, the prefecture also includes the towns of Sitia, Yerepetra, and Elonda. Heraklion, 134 kilometers east of Chania. The commercial and economic center of Crete and the capital of the island. Both Dominikos Theotokopoulos, the greatest Cretan painter, and Nikos Kazantzakis, the greatest Cretan writer, were born here. South of Heraklion, within a short distance from the town, is Knossos, the center of Minoan civilization. Thousands of tourists come here every year to admire the amazing techniques used in the construction of this labyrinthine building. palace of Festos stands grand on its eminence above the plain of the Messara, 63 kilometers from Heraklion. Here it was that the enigmatic disc was found with its spiral script that has so far evaded deciphering. Finds from these two great palaces, along with others from many sites in central and eastern Crete, are housed in the Archaeological Museum in Heraklion, a dazzling collection, one of the most important in the Mediterranean. Rethymnon, 56 kilometers to the east of Chania. Of Crete's main towns, the one that best preserves its medieval character, with much to admire in its narrow winding streets and its Venetian harbour. A magnificent fort, the largest the Venetians ever constructed, crowns the heights above. Rethymnon is a centre for tourism, with many hotels along its sandy beaches. Many local crafts flourish, catering for this trade. Beaches to the south coast are especially beautiful, like the one at Preveli, with its aquamarine waters and palm-surrounded river. Perched above it is the monastery of Preveli. Arkavi Monastery, on the northern foothills of Mount Psiloritis, is a famed place of resistance to the Turks. High on the mountain plain of Knidas, beneath the towering peak of Psiloritis, is the cave of the Aedeonandron, one of the two caves in Crete associated with the birth and upbringing of Zeus, king of the gods. One of the high spots of the year is the carnival in March. Farewell then to Chania. Our journey has taken us to some of its most beautiful places and to the heart of its most important values. It only remains for you to come and experience them for yourself.
Τραγουδώ στη σιγαλιά, πλάι στο φανάρι και θυμάμαι τα παλιά. Βγήκε το φεγγάρι και θυμάμαι τα παλιά. Βγήκε το φεγγάρι
και φυλάει τη γειτονιά με το καλδερίμι, τα στενά του το πανά. Γέμισαν ασήμι, τα στενά του το πανά. Γέμισαν ασήμι. Ζωντανεύουνε ξανά οι καημοί κι οι θρύλοι. Όνειρο είναι τα Χανιά, νύχτες του Απρίλη. Όνειρο είναι τα Χανιά, νύχτες του Απρίλη. Στα μπαλκόνια οι λιγερές, στο στρατή κιθάρες, πρωτοείδωτες χαρές. Στέναγαμοι λαχτάρες, πρωτοείδωτες χαρές. Στέναγαμοι λαχτάρες.
Και προσμένουνε οι νύοι πλάι στη γωνία. Σιγοκλαίνε οι ουρανοί απ' την αγωνία. Σιγοκλαίνε οι ουρανοί απ' την αγωνία.
Ζωντανεύουνε ξανά οι καημοί κι οι θρύλοι. Όνειρο είναι τα Χανιά, νύχτες του Απρίλη. Όνειρο είναι τα Χανιά, νύχτες του Απρίλη. Ζωντανεύουνε ξανά οι καημοί κι οι θρύλοι. Όνειρο είναι τα Χανιά, νύχτες του Απρίλη. Όνειρο είναι τα Χανιά, νύχτες του Απρίλη.